Good morning, beautiful people. I wanted to do a training on eating good, eating well, even if you hate cooking, because a lot of my clients don't like cooking. And that can be problematic for people because they assume that if they want to eat well, that they have to do a ton of cooking. Good morning, Shannon. And it's not really true because I am not a chef. I don't spend hours slaving away in the kitchen, and I eat well. Guten Tag. So I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to go through, and I also have at the end I'm going to go through eating well in restaurants guide because that's a lot of people that don't like cooking. They just eat out a lot. If you hate cooking, kind of your only other option is to order in or to go out to eat, and so you can still make healthy choices in restaurants. But there's some really key things that you need to know so that when you're doing that, you're still making the best choice because you can go drive through all the time, or if you pick higher end restaurants, you can make really good choices with just a few key things to know. So I tried to figure out the screen sharing, and I couldn't, unfortunately, because that would be really cool to be able to go through this PowerPoint with you. But I'll make sure that all the information is included and linked to blogs and things that I will reference later, so that you're getting everything that's going to help you. So strategies for those who don't like to cook and other unsolicited advice. But hopefully it is solicited advice since you've come to watch this training and you all dislike cooking but want to eat well. I learned to cook from the Food Network when I was about 19. The Food Network no longer teaches people how to cook. It's all reality. It's reality TV now. But back when I was 18, 19, it was still, Chef Michael Smith and other talented folks actually teaching people cooking skills. And so that's how I learned the basics, and I was able to apply them to my life then. But for a lot of people, it becomes a time management issue. It becomes, just a chore and a headache. And, there is a level of responsibility there in having to recognize that we want to take a little bit of time in order to make our diet healthier. But again, there's strategies we can use to make it as easy as possible, even when we don't want to make time to do it, because I totally get that. And I'm someone who also doesn't love to cook. So that's one of the reasons I did this as well. So if you absolutely will not cook at all, one of your best options is to purchase high-end food and eat more like the French. So what does that look like is finding upscale delis and markets where you can get really beautiful meats, cheeses, where you can get fresh vegetables and fruit. That is easy and fast. It's more like uncooking is more like a raw diet, so a lot of healthy and easy fast foods. And eating more raw foods is never bad. I know some people do like a full raw diet, and that can be very cleansing and feel really good at first. For a lot of people though, it swings the other way eventually, and their body's starting to crave more cooked food and more warming foods because raw food is generally very cooling. And so they can get out of balance by being on a raw food diet for too long. It does work better in the spring and summer, but in the fall and winter, you can still have more of a raw diet, but just having the foods warmed. If you don't want to spend time cooking, you can still have them warmed so that they're warming. So like soups and stews and all of that. Oh, hey, Matt. So finding an upscale deli and market, hopefully you're in an area where that is easily accessible. In Penticton, there's La Cucina, which is near the Cop Shop on Main Street. In Kelowna, really lucky to have One Big Table. So those would be places that you can find some of those upscale ingredients that are really healthy and that you don't have to cook. So what does that look like? So nutritious foods that you don't have to cook. Sourdough bread and butter, raw cheeses, ham and cold cuts, raw fruits and vegetables, sauerkraut, broth, canned fish, so sardines, smoked oysters, canned salmon, kombucha, and nuts and seeds. So those are a lot of foods that you don't have to have any preparation for. Literally just cutting your bread, putting butter on it, having some sauerkraut on it. So that is traditionally fermented sourdough. I'm talking about a properly baked sourdough. In Osoyoos, you can get that at the Lake Village Bakery. In Summerland, True Grain is beautiful, and you can get the Just Pies breads at Nature's Fair in Penticton as well. And then One Big Table in Kelowna has beautiful breads that are traditionally done. So that's a really easy food and snack to have on hand, is just from the deli, cold cuts, a sourdough bread with butter, and if you want to put some sauerkraut on it, which you can make yourself, or you can purchase prepared sauerkrauts from certain stores. Not all of them carry properly fermented sourdough or sauerkraut. So if you want to make your own, you can join the group Fermenting the Okanagan. That's my group on Facebook, where people are sharing recipes and talking about their fermented foods, trading cultures, and all of that. If you want to purchase sauerkraut that is properly done, you have to look for a few key things. So if you are in, say you're in Safeway, you're going to find sauerkrauts that have cabbage, salt, water, and they're going to be sauerkrauts that are prepared in heat. So they're going to be canned. So what that does is there's not going to be those active healthy bacteria that we want in it. There might be other ingredients added to it. You want to look for the jars of sauerkraut that have some specific words on them. So they'll say raw, they'll say unpasteurized, they might even say, living bacteria. That's ideal. That's what we want. That is the sauerkraut that's going to help feed your gut with those healthy bacteria and really aid your digestion and breaking down food. So sauerkraut, a lot of people, when they get on fermented foods, they kind of overdo it and they have a lot of it throughout the day. We don't need a lot. We only need a couple tablespoons a day. So having your sourdough bread with some butter and some sauerkraut on it, you only need about 1 tablespoon. It's going to help digestion. It's going to aid your gut. And it's super easy to just put that on. You're just putting it on raw. You don't have to cook it or prepare it or do anything. The raw fruits and vegetables, again, that's easy. That's just like having, fruit sitting around that's easy to access. You don't have to do anything special with it. I like eating a lot of, especially in the summer, a lot of raw fruit. Right now, I'm switching to apples, and if I don't feel like an apple just on its own, then I'll put some fat on it. So maybe a spoonful of peanut butter or almond butter, hemp almond butter, cashew butter, any combination of nut butter that you like. Oh, Brittany, good morning. And Naoko, hello. Thanks for joining me, ladies. So that's a really easy, sort of uncooking, because there's nothing to do. I don't have to cook this. I don't have to do anything except eat it. If I want to be super picky, I can, slice it up and put it on a plate. But it's really, really easy to do that, especially raw vegetables as well. So yes, you can make up a big fancy platter with a bunch of chopped veggies. But if you don't want to take any time at all, you can literally just eat raw veggies. You're going to be giving your body a ton of minerals, vitamins, fiber, enzymes. It's going to feel really good and not take up any of your time. So the canned fish, now again, I don't speak to veganism or vegetarianism, because I don't align myself with any specific diet, and I don't label my diet. But if you're following a vegan or vegetarian diet, obviously don't listen to me when I'm talking about the meats. But that is a super easy uncooking thing that you can eat that's super healthy, is canned sardines, smoked oysters, canned salmon, like all the healthy oils in there. So good. Numerous reasons, but also really good for our skin and our hair. So Kombucha, again, that's another fermented food that's really easy to just have on hand. You don't have to do anything special to prepare it. Nuts and seeds are a great snack. They can go along well with raw vegetables and fruits as well. And again, you'll be getting those healthy fats. So my favorite nuts and seeds are pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, Brazil nuts, and walnuts or almonds. I mean, they're both amazing. They're great for our brain. People tend to have textural issues with certain nuts. I have that with walnuts. I'll eat them, but I don't love them because of the texture. But that's totally, it's totally up to you. And there's so many different ones. There's so many different ones. So if you try a new one and you decide you don't like it, then that's okay, because there's lots of others that you can get on board with, and those are just easy to have on hand. You can add those to oatmeal. You can add those to a salad, or you can just eat them raw on their own with your fruit, with your raw fruit and vegetables. Good morning, Noelle. Aw, thanks for joining me. Okay, so those are a lot of the nutritious foods that you can have that are just easy to have on hand and don't require any special attention. So if you're willing to cook just a little bit, scrambled or fried eggs are really easy and fast. I eat a lot of eggs. I do have a blog called Why Pay $6 for Organic Eggs, and someone commented on it once saying it's $7. It depends which farmer you get your eggs from. You can reach out to local foodies and see where people are buying their free-range eggs. If you don't know, if you don't have like a specialty deli or store that you can find them in, reach out to friends and see which farmer or farm people are buying them from. A lot of people just have friends that have a really small flock, and they'll have a small amount of eggs available to sell or to share with friends or family. So you kind of just have to ask around if you don't know where to get them from. The commercial free range and free run eggs, in nutrition, there's always good, better, best. So when you're in the store, there's always good, better, best. And of course, the free range, free run eggs in the grocery store are better than like the big pack at Costco from the industrial farms. But even better than that would be getting them fresh from the farm, so farm fresh eggs. And so in the Why Pay $6 for Organic Eggs blog, I also explain and break down free range, free run, what that all means, because there's a lot of words on those labels, and it's really confusing for people. It's very confusing and quite overwhelming. So the best that you can do is getting them from a farm, or a friend that's getting them from a farm. Better would be buying the free range or free run from the grocery store. And so eggs are a really easy, healthy protein that people can have if they're willing to cook just a little bit, because it doesn't take very much time. Oatmeal is also another one that's really easy and fast. You can have your whole oats soaking. So a lot of times I'll get people to do overnight oats, which is even less work than cooking oatmeal, because basically it's putting oats in a jar and adding some yogurt and a nut milk, like maybe a soy milk or an almond milk, and then any flavorings that you want. So any frozen or fresh fruit, any nuts and seeds, if you want to put hemp seeds in there, if you want to put molasses or maple syrup or honey to sweeten it even more, anything you want. It's totally up to you to create the flavors in there, and then lid on and in the fridge overnight. And then in the morning, your oats are cooked because they've been soaking overnight, and they're broken down. They're soft, they're chewy, it's delicious. So overnight oats are even faster than cooking oats in the morning, because you don't have to cook them. You're literally just putting them in the jar with a few things and a liquid to start breaking them down, and then in the morning they're ready. So that's a really fast, if you're willing to cook just a little bit, that's a great one, because it's not even really cooking. It's super easy. So I'll share recipes for those. Willing to cook just a little bit salad dressing as well. I wouldn't even really consider salad dressing cooking, but for some people that's very annoying. It's like, oh, I don't want to make my own salad dressing. Um, Anytime I've brought a salad to a potluck and I've had olive oil and balsamic and lemon juice on it, fresh lemon juice, and people will be like, oh my gosh, it's so good. What's the dressing? 3 ingredients. It took 7 seconds to pour them on, and is super healthy. Didn't require me to go to the store and read labels on all the different dressings and try to find one that's semi-healthy, because a lot of salad dressings have a lot of crap added to them. They've got canola oil, tons of sugar, just ingredients that we can't pronounce, and so that we don't want to put in our body. So salad dressing, again, if you're willing to cook just a little bit, can be as easy as a splash of olive oil, a splash of balsamic vinegar, and some lemon juice. The great thing about that, other than those ingredients are healthy, is that I love lemon so much because lemon juice is also aiding our digestion. So as you're putting the lemon juice on your salad and then taking it in, that lemon juice is going to help your stomach to break down that food easier. And so it's going to feel really, really good when you're eating that salad, not only because you're eating fresh food, but also because you've got that lemon in there that's helping your body to break it down easier. So you're aiding digestion. So it's easier on your body. So we're taking a bit of a load off our stomach and helping it out. Willing to cook just a little bit again, and these sort of feel breakfasty, but don't worry. Free range sausage or meats in a pan, again, really easy. That's just like eggs. It's unwrapping the package and putting them in the pan until they're brown. I really like the free range turkeys from Ogopogo Meats, or turkey sausages from Ogopogo Meats. Those are beautiful. And from Happy Animals, sauteed potatoes, again, super easy, really affordable as well. And so with potatoes, it's, the same as when you go into the restaurant and they'll say, do you want cubed or shredded, or what's the other one? Anyways, it doesn't matter. You can create the potatoes however you want. So when you're doing sauteed potatoes, you can cut them really, really small, and you can make your own hash browns. Just fry them with olive oil and butter. You can chunk them up bigger, so they're like the pan fried potatoes that you would get if you're out for breakfast somewhere. So cubed, or you can cut them on a cheese grater and make them like the shredded hash browns. You can also do mashed potatoes. You can do baked potatoes. Potatoes are amazing. There's so much that you can do with them, and they're really just easy and versatile. So if you're willing to cook just a little bit, potatoes should be something that you eat pretty regularly because they're so easy. And again, you can add really simple things to them to make them really extra tasty. You can just chop an onion first, put that in the pan before you add your potatoes. A nice caramelized brown onion, which happens after you cook it a certain amount of time, it'll start to brown up a little bit more. That's really flavorful, and adding that to fried potatoes tastes so good. And then just a couple seasonings, sea salt, black pepper, oregano or basil, and your potatoes will be out of this world, and it's super easy. So steamed or sauteed or roasted vegetables with butter. So again, super, super easy. Literally just getting the veggies that you want, roasting them in the oven, putting them in your steamer, or chopping them up and sauteing them quickly. And again, this just depends on how you like them. A lot of people will sort of like to retain the crispiness of the veggies, so they don't cook them very long. A lot of people like to roast them so they're super soft. And it's totally up to you. It's a texture thing. And veggies. So I just shared, I'm going to post it below too. I just shared a blog of a recipe that I've been cooking a lot of, which is roasted sweet potato, broccoli, and tofu. And it's really easy. It's just a 1-sheet recipe, like 1 sheet of veggies. Here's the seasonings that you do. And, oh, good morning, Patty. Thanks for joining me. I was thinking everyone's going to be at work on Tuesday at 11 a.m. No one's going to join me. And there's all these people watching. I'm so happy. Good morning. And so it's just one sheet pan. It's super easy. It's literally chop, put it on the pan, olive oil, any seasonings you want or none. Depends. Like some people like really bland food. Some people do not like lots of spices. So again, it's totally up to you. I like put curry on mine and black pepper and sea salt. And then stick it in the oven, and within half an hour you've got yourself a dinner. So I'll share that. That's again super, super easy. What we want to just be thinking about is if we don't like cooking, but we want to eat well, we want to find the best ingredients possible. And we also want to think about, because we're going to be eating, probably, I'm just assuming here, if we don't like cooking, you might be eating less than people that like cooking. So you do want to pick ingredients that are high in nutrient density. So that means you want to pick foods that are whole food, as close to nature as possible, so that it has a lot of minerals and vitamins and enzymes in it, so that when you are eating, you're making the most nutritious choice available. When we have our steamed veggies, we want to have butter on them, and I like to put lemon juice again. You're going to learn how much I love lemons. When we have butter on our green vegetables, we can use vitamin D and other vitamins from the vegetable. Our body can use it better when it comes with the fats. When it comes with butter, and then that lemon juice tastes so good, and it's also going to help our body digest and assimilate those nutrients easier. And then again, my last one on my list, if you're willing to cook just a little bit, is nuts. I know a lot of people like to do specialty baked nuts, and that's to me a super treat, because I like to eat so simply that I would rather just eat the almonds than put the almonds in a bowl, add a bunch of ingredients, and then bake them for an hour, and then let them cool, and then eat them. I think if people followed me around for a week, and I'm working on a blog about this because people want to know what I eat, which to me is hilarious. It's like I just eat real food, and it's so simple. And I think that people might be a little bit shocked at how simply I eat, and like how ridiculous it is that, and mono meals, like sometimes I'll just have one food for a meal, and it's like, yeah, that's enough for me. My diet is really, really simple and really easy. Not everyone wants to eat that way. A lot of people want, they want their food to be more gourmet. They want it to be more exciting. They want to have lots of different flavors going on, and that's totally great if you like to put that time in. This is a training for people who don't like cooking. So the crispy nuts is on my list for if you're willing to cook just a little bit, because if you want to take that little bit of time to buy the bulk nuts, season them, and then bake them, you could do a really big batch and then have a big bag of extra specialty tasting crispy nuts. I can add a recipe for that. That's not something that I do, but if you're willing to cook just a little bit, it's a really yummy snack. So want to add to your repertoire. Brown rice is something that not everyone does, mainly because people think that it takes a lot of extra time to cook it compared to white rice, or they just don't like the texture. The next few foods that I'm going to talk about are just like very basic and super healthy foods that if they're already in your diet, you're already an accomplished cook, because we want to bring it back down to the basics, because that makes it easy, that takes the pressure off. And if we want to be eating more of a traditional diet, a real foods diet, these are how our ancestors would prepare foods. If you think of like foods that your great grandmother would eat, this is as close as we can get to how she would eat. So brown rice is a really great food that you can put with your roasted veggies. I mean, again, of course, you can just have roasted veggies with butter and lemon for dinner. But if you want to round it out, or if you want to just have more bulk to it so that you'll have leftovers for the next day, then rice is a good option for doing that. So people think that brown rice takes a really long time to cook. It doesn't. What we've lost is the practice of soaking whole grains. So if you soak your brown rice overnight with just a little bit of something acid in it, So some apple cider vinegar, a squeeze of lemon. What that's going to do is break down the phytic acid in the grain. And when we remove the phytic acid from the grain, that is the mineral blocker. That when we remove that, it makes the minerals in the grain more available to our body. And this is a practice that we lost when we started having all of this packaged and processed foods, and microwaved rice became a thing. Before that, traditional diets would always soak their grains, and it's really, really easy. And a lot of times people think, oh, that sounds like an extra step, that sounds annoying. Well, the extra step is pouring the rice in a pot with water and then putting a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in it. So if that's too much for you, then that's really not that. It's really, really easy. That's all you do. You let it soak in that pot overnight. You don't have to do anything to it. You're literally just waiting it out. You don't have to think about it. What I used to do was get in a cycle with soaking my grains. So in the morning, I would put on my brown rice to soak all day for the evening, and then when I put my rice on for dinner, then I would put my oats on for the morning. So I got in a cool cycle with it, and that's something that you can do that keeps your soaking game up. And again, if you think about the digestive benefits of that, as well as the phytic acid remover, so that we're going to be getting more minerals from the whole grain, it is worth that extra time. But also, it makes it cooking time really fast. So that's what I kept saying was, people think brown rice takes so much longer to cook than white rice. Not if you soak it. It cuts your cooking time in half. So it's a really easy practice to get into, and it makes your rice, it changes the texture of the rice. It, to me, makes it a bit more chewy, which I really like. Not everyone likes that. Again, this is something that you have to try because it might be good for you. You might decide, no, I don't actually like that, and that's okay. We're also different, and we have different needs and likes and dislikes. So soaking your rice is a traditional, easy practice. It increases your digestive abilities to use the nutrients in the rice. It cuts your cooking time in half, and it's just a traditional method of preparation. And it's really, really easy. So again, just putting your rice, water with an acid, let it sit. Before you cook it, dump that water, and you'll want to strain it, and then add fresh water for cooking. So if you add brown rice to your repertoire, you're already accomplishing huge. Any baked meat that you're going to do, if you're going to have a sauce, and the recipe that I shared on my blog for the sweet potato, tofu, and broccoli, that comes in the recipe. It comes with a really easy, nice sauce, a miso, lime, or a lemon sauce, and that's it's a maple, lemon, or lime miso sauce. Super yummy. And if you have the miso paste, and you have a lime or lemon, and you have maple syrup, real maple syrup, it's literally just mixing these together in any combination you want. So, I mean, this is the thing about recipes, and this is the thing that I learned from Chef Michael Smith when I was learning to cook, when I was watching the Food Network religiously when I was 18, was recipes are just a guideline. They're just giving you ideas, and then you take from that and you make it your own. So, if for instance, one day, if I wanted to make the miso lemon maple dressing, but I didn't have maple syrup, I'm not going to panic about that and have to go to the store and buy maple syrup. I'm just going to go, okay, what else can I use instead? Or do I even need to have the sweetener? Maybe I can just have a miso lime dressing, and maybe that's enough. Or maybe I can add olive oil instead. Like it's just, these are just guidelines. It doesn't have to be this way. I recently did a meal plan for a client, and she did exactly what I want people to do with meal plans, because I don't like making meal plans for people because they get stressed out about needing to follow it exactly the way that it's written out. And she had said to me, oh, like, my husband was reading it, and he's like, well, what about this, and what about that, and I don't know about this, and she's like, just wing it. And then he did. And I was so relieved. Like, that's exactly what I want people to do with meal plans, is just to be like, okay, this is a guideline, But if I don't have this ingredient, or or if I like, how do I make this fit for my lifestyle? Making changes to it. And that's exactly what we should be doing. Anytime we're looking at recipes, is just for inspiration. It doesn't have to be done that exact way. Okay, so a baked meat with the sauce. Again, that's something that you can do in larger amounts and then have leftovers for the next day. Making a sauce is easy. Again, in my blog, I'll have my favorite sauce that I'm using right now with the sweet potato and broccoli recipe. Bone broth is a really amazing one that you can add to your repertoire that is so healthy, so healing for our gut, and really, really easy because basically it's just putting bones and veggies and water with an acid in a stock pot or a slow cooker and just let it sit. You don't have to do anything. So this is kind of like uncooking because not that it's raw, but that it's not requiring much of you other than to assemble the things. And then time and heat is doing the work for you. So it's not hard, it's not complicated. I'll put a recipe below for my bone broth recipe that always gets shared a lot in the winter because people like bone broth as just to drink. I do remember a couple of winters ago there was a trend that people were replacing their coffee with bone broth. Not a fan of trends, but I did like that more people were making their own bone broth or buying it, and there was even bone broth shops opening up in New York as almost like as a competition to coffee shops. Hilarious, but fantastic. Bone broth is amazing, and I haven't been there this year, but Brodo in Penticton makes a beautiful bone broth. And the chef there does it from scratch, so it's beautifully done. And so there's options. You just have to look for these things and find them. And if you can't find them, then you can make it yourself really easily. You just need to know where to get the ingredients. And again, all of that information will be in the blog that I'm going to share below. So after this video. So if bone broth is something that you've heard about, you want to do, maybe you haven't tried yet, or you have but you're just not doing it regularly, that's a really amazing one to have in your repertoire that makes you an accomplished cook already because it's easy. But if you tell people that that the soup you're eating is in a bone broth that you made yourself, people are like, oh my goodness, wow. So that's pretty fantastic because it's old-fashioned. People think it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, but really what you're doing is just creating yourself super nourishing foods that are going to be tasty and make you feel really, really good. Okay, so oops, I lost my PowerPoint. Here we go. So a stock pot stew, so stock pot or crock pot stews. Again, it's basically soup and stew season now. Really beautiful day today, but the last little while has been getting colder, and we're starting to we're not seeing the fruit in the fruit markets anymore. It's definitely moving into winter very quickly, and so what's great about winter is that it is still easy to eat well. It's not as easy to get fresh and local fruit food as well as it is in the summer, but it is still accessible to us to have easy, healthy meals with a slow cooker. Slow cookers are fantastic. And I will share a blog again. I have a really great blog on, it's called Eating Well in the Dead of Winter, the Dead of Canadian Winter. Because I had a conversation with a client. What spurred on that blog was a conversation with a client of it's December. I don't want to buy broccoli. I just want, right? And so the conversation was well, is it more expensive to buy vegetables in the winter rather than the summer? Where's our grocery budget going elsewhere that we're not making it a priority? Or is it really just a lack of vegetables that you particularly don't like and are struggling to find? So I think that it's a bit of a misconception that it's really, really hard to eat well over the winter. Yes, it's easier in the summer in that it's more accessible, because all the fruit stands are full of food to eat. So it's not that it's hard, it's just we just have to look a little bit harder. We have to shift our decisions a little bit and shift our choices, but we have to do that anyway. Um, Whether or not we're in the food movement and eating real food, you're going to be shifting your diet in the winter anyway. And so the food is still there, it's still accessible to us, and it's making time to find it. The slow cooker makes it easier because once we finally get those foods, the slow cooker is like, fill me, put things in me, you put things in the slow cooker, you forget about it, and then 8 hours later it's ready. I get a lot of my clients doing slow cooker and stock pot stews simply because it is set it and forget it. And so for people that don't like to cook or don't feel like they have time, the best, like your best friend is the slow cooker and the stock pot, because you put ingredients in it in the morning, and then when you come home at dinner time, and it's, pretty soon it's going to be dark at like 4:30 or 5 p.m. So as soon as you get home from work, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be thinking it's dinner time because it's so dark, and your food's ready, and you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to slave and prep, like you just had to put things in it, and then it's ready for you, so it's easy. The next on my list for adding to your repertoire is potatoes. Again, I already talked a lot about potatoes, so I'm not going to go there right now. But mashed potatoes, roasted potatoes, those are super, super easy and fast, and just very versatile. There's lots you can do with potatoes. So that's on my list. And basic soups. So again, you can do that in the slow cooker. You can do that in a stock pot. Soups are a really easy way to get a lot of veggies in and make them taste super good. So squash soups are one of my favorite. Butternut squash soup is super yummy. Any like a lot of people love potato soup. Any veggie that you love can be turned into soup. And if you make your own bone broth, it's even incredibly healthy to have your own broth with veggies in it. And then you can get one of those little hand blenders if you want to have like a creamy soup. I don't care either way. I know a lot of people like creamy soup. I think because it feels a bit more gourmet, because when you go into a high-end restaurant, that's what they typically have, is a blended soup. But for me, I don't care. If there's chunks of veggies in my soup, I will eat the chunks of veggies. If it's blended, I will eat it blended. I'm just very simple like that, but that's up to you. But soup is really, really basic and really easy, and making your own soup, yes, is going to take more time than opening a can of soup. But have you read the ingredients in a can of soup lately? They are chock full of very strange things, and I don't need to get into that. I talk about ingredients all the time, and real foods and whole foods. So I think people have the basic fundamental understanding of what whole foods are. And so taking whole foods and putting them in a pot, chopping them up, putting them in a pot with a broth or water and seasoning, and letting it sit is really, really easy. And making your own soups, what you can do is make a huge batch of them and then have food for the next few days, for the week if you're a single person. If you have a big family, you can, quadruple the batch, and you can freeze for later. So a lot of people will get themselves in a good cycle where they'll make a big batch of soup. So that's soup for the day. You get soup for the next day, and then freeze some of it, and then you can have that frozen soup. You can reheat that again a few days later, a week later, a month later, because you might be, if you're a food phase person, you might be, ugh, I'm sick of that soup, I don't want to taste it anymore after a couple days of having it. So if it's in the freezer, then you can have it later, and it's ready to go. It's healthy. You don't have to to think about going out and having more cans of soup. It's like, oh, I already made this soup, it's already stored here in the freezer for me, it's ready to go. So brown rice, baked meats with sauce, bone broth, slow cooker meals, stock pot meals, stews, mashed potatoes, any kinds of potatoes, and basic soups. These are really easy meals that you can have that make you an accomplished cook. If they're already in your repertoire, amazing. If they're not and you want to play with them, That's a really, really easy way to get healthy food into your diet that doesn't take a lot of time. Just a side note, avoiding the blood sugar roller coaster. I talk about this a lot in my trainings. I've talked a lot about how people gain weight because of the blood sugar spike. So when we eat something that contains white sugar, our liver doesn't know what to do with that excess sugar. So it stores it as fat. So when we go through our day with spiking and crashing our blood sugar, it's really, really hard on our body. But it's also one of the main reasons that people put weight on, other than stress. It's just this spiking and crashing. So a lot of the meals that I talked about earlier had to do with breakfast. And as you know, I am a big breakfast proponent. I love breakfast, and rock stars eat breakfast. And so you should too. And so breakfast is really important. And having a good breakfast that has a healthy fat in it is going to make you feel full and feel good. At least until lunch, and it won't be spiking and crashing your blood sugar. So I'm going to get, in a couple slides, I'm going to get into the eating out at restaurants, and I'll talk about the way that it's easier to spike your blood sugar in the morning and how to avoid doing that. So if you don't like cooking, don't let it stress you, just own it. I had a client many years ago that really struggled with it, and I just said to her, you know, it's okay to not like cooking. Like it seems like this is a really big deal for you. You really stress about it. You have a lot of guilt about it, and it just seemed to come up in conversation way more than necessary. And so I just said, you know, just own that. Like, just, yes, I don't like cooking, and you're not a bad person if you don't like cooking. It's just you. It's okay. It's not something bad that you have to change about yourself. It's not something that, you know, makes you, it makes the quality of your life less, unless you make it so. So if you don't like cooking, my advice is just to own it. I have owned the simplicity of my diet, and I'm not ashamed for it. And when people, if people see how I eat and comment on it, I would just, yes, this is how I eat. There's no shame. There's no guilt. There's no lack of, you know, self, I guess. That's just not necessary. And so if you don't like cooking, one of the most important things you can do, though, is to at least eat regularly. Because a lot of people, if they don't like cooking, they'll eat less because they don't want to cook. So it's really important that you figure out foods that you can eat uncooking, you know, really easy foods or raw foods that you can have, that don't require cooking, don't require a lot of time, but that you're still eating them. So like I said, like a piece of fruit with peanut butter or almond butter on it, that's a meal. Make that a meal. And getting your body on a rhythm of eating regularly is really, really important for weight loss, really important for a blood sugar balance. A blood sugar balance, taking care of our liver, and not stressing are my three big keys for weight loss. Those are the three main ones that I work with clients on if they're struggling to lose weight, and that's their goal. So if you don't like cooking, just own it. We need to sit down to eat. We need our body to be relaxed so that we can digest. And I talk about this all the time. We have our two different nervous systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Oh, what's going on here? Catherine Jones. Hi, Catherine. Thanks for joining. Our two different nervous systems, and I'm just going to explain this really quickly because I feel like I say this all the time, but again, constant reminders are good. Our parasympathetic nervous system, our sympathetic nervous system. So our sympathetic nervous system is our stress nervous system. That's when we are, you know, something happens, say something happens in front of you while you're driving, you have to slam on the brakes, and you get all those stress hormones, you can feel that adrenaline, right? That's the nervous system that we want to be in only when we have to be in a situation like that. But unfortunately, a lot of us are there chronically, and not to that level, but we have this line of stress that we maintain where we have just a little flow of those stress hormones, and that's really, really hard on our liver. There's a lot to deal with there when we're there all the time. We want to be in the parasympathetic nervous system most of the time. that is our rest and digest state. So that's the nervous system where we don't have anything to worry about. Our body can focus on digestion. It can focus on healing. So it can focus on what's going on in our body, what symptoms are that we're dealing with that need help. We want to be in that nervous system most of the time, but most of us are not. We're in the fight or flight. We're in the stress mode. And so we have to work on learning to get ourselves out of that one and back into parasympathetic, where we can rest and digest, because when we're in chronic stress mode, our body doesn't care about digesting food. So if you imagine, if we look at the animal world, if you're being chased by a lion, your body doesn't give a shit about digesting food. It's trying to keep you alive. So the digestive process shuts down to move the power and the energy to other centers of the body so that we can run or we can fight or whatever we have to do. And so if we learn to get out of that chronic stress, and we can do that with breath work, we can do that with yoga, with meditation, we can do that with certain cognitive behavioral techniques. There's a lot of different modalities for working on healing this. Then we can be in that state where we can digest our food properly. That's really important because we want to get to the point where we don't have guilt about what we're eating, we don't have stress about it. And when our nervous system is overactive and overstimulated, we're probably going to have stress no matter what. So when we can learn to be calm, even if we're eating bad food, our body's going to be able to handle it better because we are able to digest it and break it down. My best and favorite example for this, this will be the last thing I say about this, is something that Lisa Kilgore said in a talk probably 7 years ago, and it's still stuck with me. She was doing a talk when Whole Foods was Whole Foods. Now it's Nature's Fair in Penticton. And she said, the best example of describing the two different nervous systems to people is to tell them that you would get more nutrition from a Big Mac if you ate it completely relaxed and you were grateful and happy and super calm than if you ate a really healthy salad but you were stressed and angry and maybe on the phone fighting with someone. You get more nutrition from a Big Mac by being relaxed than you would by eating a salad super stressed. That's how powerful this nervous system key is. It's so powerful that if we can combine eating good while our nervous system is relaxed, we'll be getting as much as we can from that food. We'll be able to break it down. We'll be able to assimilate the nutrients that are coming in. We'll be able to work on our symptoms better. Super powerful. I just love that that visual, I guess. It's always been a great example for me to share that with people. So we need to sit down to eat. Focused. I have an article coming out soon on my Lutz Nutrition Facebook page about some research that's being done about people looking at screens while they're eating meals. And this is really hard for me. And me and Scott and Nikki did a podcast where we talked about food porn and all sorts of stuff around that. And one of the comments that Scott made was, eat your food, not your phone. And I thought that was really brilliant. But a lot of us do consume content while we're eating our food, and that's and I'm guilty of that too. And it's super hard to train out of that. It takes a lot of conscious effort to say, oh right, I'm eating a meal. I don't want to do work right now. I want to just focus on my meal. And when we do that, again, we'll be switching that. We'll be switching out of that because content stresses us. Like usually, even if we're reading, nice things on Facebook, we're still doing stuff and our brain's still going and we're not focused and in our body. So that when you read that article, it's talking about why mindful eating is so important. And it's also going to confirm some of the things that I've been saying that are really important about our nervous systems. Okay, I just noticed the time, so I'm going to keep flying here through my PowerPoint. So paying attention to digestion, I just have a few key tips. If you have issues with digestion, Again, that's any holistic nutritionist specialty. We love helping people with their digestive systems. We know a lot about it. And so for number one, for paying attention to digestion, did I miss a slide? Yeah, is digestion of fats. So a lot of people don't know what they struggle with in regards to their digestion, but they might have an idea. Some people that I've worked with know exactly what foods don't work for them. Some people know maybe what macronutrient, so I struggle with fats or I struggle with carbs. And some people just overall have digestive, like chronic digestive issues and don't exactly know how to pinpoint it. So we can help people find that and then help them move away from those symptoms. But I just have a couple key suggestions for those of you that might know which ones you struggle with. So if you do struggle with digestion of fats, in health food stores you can get Swedish bitters. They will help you break down fats. Any lacto-fermented food will help you break down fats. So I talked about kombucha earlier and sauerkraut. And there's a lot of different lacto-fermented foods, but those will help you break down fats. Lemon juice or vinegar, either on your food or in water. A lot of people take apple cider vinegar on its own. I know that apple cider vinegar is a beautiful, healthy component of people's diets, but it's also really, really strong. And so if you do take apple cider vinegar, please take it in water. Don't just take apple cider vinegar on its own. It's really hard on your teeth, pretty hard on your stomach. Like just put it in some water so it's not as hard to break down and not as hard on your body. And it'll be more palatable as well if it's in some water. I like lemon juice. I prefer lemon juice. Also, it's really, if you have an abundance of apples, you can make your own apple cider vinegar really easily. And I have a recipe for that on my blog as well. If you really struggle with fats, or if you don't have your gallbladder, ox bile tablets with meals. So again, you can get that in health food stores, and those will help you break down fats way better. If you struggle to break down protein, plenty of salt. You want to eat meat with the fat. You want to eat meat with broth, so it's more complete. If you're having, if you struggle simply with heavy meals, like you find that meals feel too heavy or they're too big, and this may be counterintuitive to some people because we don't want to mix meat with fruit generally, but there are protease enzymes in pineapple and tropical fruits. So if you have a heavy meal and either start it or finish it with a pineapple or mangoes, that's going to help your digestion. And the thing about what I do for work is that everyone is so different, and so there might be certain things that is like, this is a generic recommendation for this problem, but it might not work for you. And so finding these little tweaks of what will work for you that you also like, that's easy for you to add into your lifestyle, this is all part of it. So those are really easy suggestions for breaking down protein. And then digestion of carbohydrates, proper preparation of grains. So again, soaking, like I talked about earlier, that's a huge one. That's really, really going to help if you struggle to digest rice. Eating carbs with adequate fat. So if you're a chip person or a cracker person or a rice cracker person or a pasta person, like just have healthy fats with it. It's better for your blood sugar. It'll help you break it down better. So just adding some fat, some butter, some olive oil, some nuts and seeds, some nuts or seed butter. That's really helpful. If people have serious digestive issues and those recommendations don't help them, there are some specific diets that you can try that are very therapeutic. That's again not in my wheelhouse because I don't like to put people on diets, but there are specific nutritionists that work within certain diets. So for instance, the GAPS diet works for a lot of people for if they have really severe digestive issues happening. Okay, finally, I'm getting to my restaurant recommendations. So choosing higher-end restaurants is better than fast food. Ordering the simplest foods that you can. Talk to the server. You can ask for butter instead of margarine. Avoiding soups and sauces, salad dressings, and fried foods. So the sauces, salad dressings, and fried foods often contain a lot of sugar. They might have MSG, And anything fried in any restaurant is going to be fried in vegetable oil, probably canola oil. And that's like the biggest thing we don't want in our diet. And I have a blog on that, which I will share, but canola oil is one thing we don't want in our diet. And anytime we're out to eat, anything fried is typically going to be in that. And that's not really something that the restaurant can change. So you just want to avoid those foods. I have a really awesome guide that I was giving away to people on my email newsletter last year, and I'm just going to read some of the points to it, the points on it to you right now. So the restaurant guide says, don't go to the restaurant feeling starving. This recommendation helps you prevent overeating or just making a really fast choice and not really caring just because you're so starving. If you're in a restaurant that brings you bread to start, don't fill up on that. Just enjoy one piece of it and chew it really, really well. Water or room temperature water with the juice of a slice of lemon before the meal will improve your digestion. So when they bring you water, and I don't like ice in my water. I like it room temperature. So a lot of times I'll take the ice out. You can either ask for lemon or on your meal. A lot of times there will be a lemon, and so you can add that to the water. And then certain herbal teas will be really helpful for digestion as well. So you can order a peppermint tea, a ginger tea, chamomile. These are typical teas that most restaurants will carry. And green tea, which also has a little bit of caffeine, so a nice mild pick-me-up, better than coffee, and healthier because green tea has antioxidants in it. You can also take home your food. So there's a couple things that happen in restaurants that are stressful. Like if you can't finish your meal and then people just like send it back, like that really stresses me out. It's like take that food home, like don't waste that. The eco anxiety comes into play there because then you need the styrofoam container to take it home. I do know people that bring their own containers to restaurant because they already know they're not going to be able to finish the food. And that's me, because I can very rarely finish a whole plate of food that I'm given in a restaurant. It's always too much. So you can bring your own container if you know you're going to have to take it home. And that's a great way to also like stretch your food dollar, because eating out at restaurants is expensive, and if you're paying $20 for a meal and you only eat half of it and you take the other half and eat it later, you're actually getting 2 meals out of that $20. So it's also smart. And it really stresses me out when people like send food back and they're just like, well, I can't eat anymore. Please don't waste food. That can be refrigerated and ate later, enjoyed later. So another great recommendation is just making your own meal out of a few of the side dishes. And this is what I have to do if I have to go to a restaurant, that I don't necessarily love, like a big chain restaurant, would be just to pick out of the few side dishes. So like a small garden salad, adding some grilled chicken or salmon with a side of steamed rice or a side of steamed vegetables. Like that's a complete meal. A lot of restaurants will do that for you, no problem. You don't have to be afraid to ask the server about ingredients. You can ask them what can be substituted. Most servers know a lot about the food, and they know that people are very picky nowadays, and they just want people to enjoy their meals. So chefs are very used to people, asking certain things or getting weird requests back in the kitchen. They're used to that now. It's not a trouble to ask for modifications, so don't be shy, but also just be very respectful of the chef's time. So when you're making substitutions or modifications, just make sure that it's not super complicated. You can make a couple modifications that make it better for you, but won't like totally stress out the kitchen, especially if they're super busy. Like if I'm in a restaurant and they're super busy, I don't ask for any modifications. I've seen enough chefs roll their eyes that I understand how stressful that can be for them, especially when there's 10 bills waiting to be cooked. So the easiest way to modify your food is when it comes, just move what you didn't want, and send it back or give it to someone else at your table, or play around with it. But you don't always have to make tons of modifications to a meal to make it healthy. You can just pick something healthy from the menu. Again, like making your own meal out of the side dishes is one of the best recommendations from this. Nearly all the dressings and sauces can be asked for on the side as well. So that's a good idea to ask for it on the side if you're trying to avoid any additives or sugar. For instance, you can just ask for olive oil and balsamic on the side instead of dressing, and I've done that, and restaurants have no problem doing that at all. And what's another good one here is ask to add extra vegetables. So sometimes I will want French fries with my meal, but other times I want to substitute the side with a healthier side, and so asking for extra vegetables if they can steam them, that's really, really cool. That's, you know, high-end restaurants would do that. Not all of them would do that, but even if they're raw, that's nice too. And so choosing a vegetable or a salad or potatoes on the side instead of the French fries is a really good option. And then a lot of restaurants now are catering to vegans and vegetarians. So any of the vegetarian options on a menu are generally healthier than the meat options, especially the red meat options. Again, looking out for any of the weird fake meat. I don't know if high-end restaurants are doing it, but you know, a lot of the other chains and big guys are doing like the Beyond Meat burger, and I posted an article about that a while ago. It's really not a suitable replacement. It's not healthier. And again, I will share a blog on that. I have so much more to share. Sushi is a really healthy option for eating out, avoiding the deep fried stuff, and just enjoying veggie or fish rolls and miso soup. And the gomai spinach salad is really good. That's super, super yummy and healthy. If you're craving dessert and you're in a restaurant but you don't want to get a big one, you can order the kids dessert, or the senior sizes are usually smaller, and that costs less too. Any donut pie, cinnamon buns, muffins should be avoided because they usually will contain hydrogenated oils and lots and lots and lots of sugar and white flour, which we don't want. If you're at a buffet, endless plates doesn't have to mean endless plates. I'm the worst person to take to a buffet because I don't eat my money's worth at all. But you can load up on vegetables, fish or chicken, and just avoid the fry stuff. Try to just be aware of how you feel when you're in the buffet, because a lot of us will overeat because we want to get our money's worth, but that's at the cost of our health. So that it might feel good in that moment that we're, you know, luxuriously eating as much as we want, but afterwards you're probably going to feel really tired and sluggish, and maybe your digestion isn't happy, and that's your body's way of saying, hey, that was too much, you overdid it, can we not do that anymore? And the last tip in my restaurant guide was, you know, if everyone at your table is wanting alcohol, to try to split a bottle or two so you can just enjoy one glass and not feel pressure to have to keep ordering. You can just nurse it throughout your meal. And eat slow and enjoy. That is the best recommendation for eating out. I did mention earlier that I was going to talk about one of the worst things that people have when they eat out for breakfast, and that's typical hotel breakfast. So I've worked with clients before that travel a lot and they eat out basically 95% of the time. And the hotel breakfasts are really problematic because a lot of the continental breakfasts basically just contain white flour and white sugar. So they'll have lots of donuts, croissants, fruit juices, you know, bagels, cereals with milk. And so there's nothing nourishing there. And again, that's really, really hard on our blood sugar. We're going to be spiking our blood sugar with these high sugar, high carb breakfasts. So the best thing that we can do if it's a continental breakfast is take the fruit only, because most of them do have fresh fruit. If it's a continental breakfast that's really, you know, nice and fancy and has sausages or bacon or eggs, those would actually be better than having the croissants and the donuts and the cereal with milk. So that's, you know, go for the hot stuff if they have it. If they don't have it, eating the fruit is your best bet. So easy drinks while you're traveling or eating out. Sparkling water with a squeeze of lemon and a pinch of salt. Super thirst quenching. We're going to be getting lots of minerals. We're going to be getting enzymes from that lemon, so again, helping our body to digest better. And some people go even so far as to keep a small container of unrefined salt with them while they're traveling, so that we don't have to use the table salt. We can use that high mineral salt to salt our food, and to salt just a tiny bit of salt in the water for electrolytes. So that if you travel a lot, that's a really, really good option, is to have that just in your purse, just a little guy. Alternatives to coffee, so green tea, kombucha, hot bone broth, You can put fresh ginger in hot water and let it sit, maybe add some honey or molasses or maple syrup. These are all alternatives to coffee, and I do have a blog on getting away from coffee because a lot of people want to do that, but they've been drinking it every day for so long that it's just normal. And so, that is something that is a healthy switch you can make that it doesn't take any extra time. So there's that. Okay, and my last slide is balance. Good, better, best. In nutrition, there's always good, better, best. So, oops, pulled up my restaurant guide again here. Good, better, best. So what we can do in nutrition is make the best decisions that we can in that moment with the knowledge that we have then. We also don't want to have guilt about our choices. We want to enjoy and chew really, really well and eating slow as much as we can to set our digestion up for the best success. And again, that ties back to what I talked about earlier with our nervous systems. So we want to have freedom in our food choices. We also want to make good choices so that we feel good, and that's what I'm all about. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I'm all about not labeling our diet, but having a diet that feels good to us, that has a lot of whole foods, real foods that are going to be nourishing us so that we have as much energy as possible. And that when we sway from that we don't have guilt about it, that we can just relax and eat and enjoy. And the reason that's so challenging for people is because we're so stuck in that diet culture, and we have these mental chains in us from the diet culture, which is to count and to stress and strain and worry and always be obsessed. And I'm trying to move people away from that, because that is perpetuating our stress levels. And chronic stress is one of the main reasons, for so many issues, but it's one of the biggest reasons that people put on weight, which is why most people come to me, is for weight loss. So, degenerative diseases aside, that's a big deal too. Stress is tied with those, but just for our general well-being, stress is when we can lower our stress, we can start moving towards weight loss easier. So we want to have a diet that is easy. We want to have freedom. Primitive people, our ancestors, had no choice in the foods they ate. They just knew instinctively to eat what was in their locale, and they had good health without straining and without effort and without counting and all of the drama that we put into diets now. Now we've progressed to this state where we have too many choices, and we've lost our instinctive knowledge, and we've lost connection to our body, where our body tells us what it wants by what feels good, and it tells us when to eat, and it tells us when to stop eating. And there's three different types of eaters. The ones that I see the most are the one that I see the most is a restrictive eater. The one that I want people to be at is intuitive eater. So a restrictive eater is like the diet mindset that I'm talking about, where we're like, these are the foods that I want to eat because I know that I'll lose weight when I eat these foods. That's not necessarily real. And then an intuitive eater is like, I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full. That's it. No guilt, no shame, no drama, no anything. And generally these people are happier, and generally they are a healthy weight, which is amazing. So the calmer we can be, right? It's all about that. Our goal is to achieve the health of our ancestors, of primitive people, in that freedom. So just choosing the right foods with also having happiness about it and being grateful. Be grateful for the amount of choices that we have and not stressing and straining about it. That's the goal, because that's a real accomplishment. That is all I have for my PowerPoint slides. I'm so organized today. I have a PowerPoint. Oh my goodness. So I feel like that was a lot of information. I hope that it was helpful for you. I've got, Chantel's on, and Karen. Hey, good morning. Thank you, ladies. Good morning. No, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I think that, I'm hoping this is helpful for you, because, that again is one of the biggest things that people struggle with when they say to me that they really dislike cooking. And so I feel like I've given a lot of information that can help you make some switches. And if anything in here you need, I mean, I'm going to post a lot of blogs below, but if anything in here you're like, you know, that really piques my interest, I want to do that, but I'm not sure how, or I'm struggling mentally with XYZ, just reach out to me. I'm constantly answering people's questions. If it's something a little deeper, we can hop on a phone call. I do free 20-minute calls with ladies who are struggling, and it's not always getting you into a program or getting a nutrition package. I just want to help. So if you have an issue, we can sort it out. If you want to send me an email, I respond to every single email. I'm always giving out people advice because I want, as I said, I want us to find more freedom and relaxation in our diet while also feeling really, really good. That's my goal. So the first step, if you're struggling with something, would just be to reach out. If it's something that requires more than an email back and forth, then I will book a phone call with you and we can have a chat about it and see how I can help you best. All right, and Emma, hey, thanks for joining. Very cool. So this training is going to be saved in the Facebook group. So you know, it's there anytime. If you want to go back, or if you're just hopping on now at the end, you can. I think it pops up just a minute or two after I end it, and then I will post all the blogs in there that are some further reference for you that is helpful to you, hopefully. All right, happy Tuesday. September is over. Oh my goodness, it's October 1st. I'm super happy to do this training for you. Hope it was informative, and have a lovely day.